So, today we are going to talk about all the books that I plan to read in the month of March. I am very excited about March because it is my birthday month. During March, you can expect to see all sorts of birthday related content like over 30s tag, my Pisces tag, and all sorts of things like that. But today, we're just going to talk through all the books that I plan to read in the month of March. It's going to be a little bit of a different TBR than I have been doing for the past few months because I've got quite a few buddy reads that I'll be doing in the month of March, and also I have 2 readathons that I want to go in the month of March. So normally I would do the roll of reads as the primary way that I would figure out what books to read, and then I would try and see if I could figure out how to get the books that I am buddy reading to fit into some of those roles, and also add the figure out what prompts work for the readathons from the roll of reads. I'm actually going to do it the other way around in March, so I'm going to do the buddy reads and the readathons separately from my roll of reads. I've decided to do that just because, like I said, there were quite a few buddy reads and it just seemed like it made more sense to me to do that, partly because punishment wise that means only the roll of reads books will count towards punishments for April, I should say, and I didn't really want my birthday month to involve having it to end up with lots of punishments. In terms of punishments going into March, I am not going to have any. I'm actually filming this on the 23rd of February and this is my last book that I have to read for February. I started it this morning. I've read about 20 pages and yeah, I definitely will finish this by the end of February since I have got 6 days. So this is the book I'm currently reading and therefore I won't have any punishments going into March. So that's nice for me. So what I'm going to do for this TBR is I'm going to talk you through all of my buddy reads. I'm going to talk you through the 2 readathons that I intend to do during March, and then I will do a mini roll of reads at the end. Normally for roll of reads I roll 2 dice. I roll my 12-sided dice to see how many rolls I have to make to get all of my prompts for the readathon, for the month I should say, and then I roll my 20-sided dice. This time, however, I'm going to roll this 4-sided dice to determine how many rolls I have to do, and then roll my 20-sided dice so that I can see what I will be picking. So, let's start with the buddy reads. The first 2 buddy reads that I want to talk to you about, one I am starting this week, so it'll actually start in the last week of February, and the other I will start in March, both of which I'm not going to count towards, well, I'm not counting any of my buddy reads towards my punishments, but I'm not going to try and make sure I get these first 2 read in the month of March because I will be reading those with 2 friends of mine who are not booktubers, which means they don't have their own monthly TBRs, they don't try and get a certain amount of books read in a month or anything like that. The first of those is Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This book I will be buddy reading with my friend Alison. The reason for that is because, as you guys know, in February I read The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch, which is the first in this series of books. That was my book that was chosen for me by Rowan, and I was chatting with my friend Alison and telling her that I had just finished or that I was currently reading, and she read The Lies of Loch Lamora not that long ago. He suggested that we read this as a buddy read. We were going to read Winter's Promise, but we've decided now instead to read Red Seas Under Red Skies as a buddy read together because we're both very keen to continue with the series. That is my first buddy read for March. Then I have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, and I will be buddy reading this with my friend Michelle. This is a book that I put on these books will self-destruct in 12 months. If I don't read them in 12 months, I have to unhaul them. And Michelle saw that I had made that video, that I had put this on that list, and she said, well, I would really like to read that book as well. So we decided that maybe we should buddy read it together. That might help us to actually read it. It is pretty chunky. It is 864 pages long. The typeface isn't tiny, but it's not exactly very big either. So I think this will take us quite a while to get through. So those two are the first two books to go on my TBR for March, but they very well will probably continue on into April, so they won't count towards any kind of punishments or anything like that. All right, then we have, this is not actually the entire book that I'll be reading. I'm actually going to be reading Northanger Abbey with Helen from Helen's Bookhaven. I will link her channel in the description below. I should just say now before I continue that everyone else that I talk about who are booktubers, I will link their channels in the description below so you can go and check out their channels. So I happen to own all of the Jane Austen books in this big bind-up. Rowan owns all of the Jane Austen books as well, but they are also in another big bind-up. I probably will end up downloading onto my e-reader a small copy of Northanger Abbey because this is a little bit chunky to read. But anyway, it is the book that I happen to have. So yes, Helen and I will be reading Northanger Abbey as a buddy read in the month of March, which I'm really excited about. Next up, we have The Chalkman by CJ Tudor, and this book is a book that Connor and I will be buddy reading together. I don't know a huge amount about this one. It is a thriller, I believe. I've heard that it's really great, so I'm quite looking forward to reading this one. It is actually reasonably short, so it shouldn't take Connor and I too long to read it. But yes, so that is another book that I will be buddy reading in March. Then I have The Miseducation of Cameron Post. That is on my e-reader, so I'll put a picture of it somewhere up here. I will be buddy reading this one with Robbie from And His Nose Stuck in a Book. I believe it's about a teenage girl called Cameron. Her family find out that she is queer, and so they send her off to one of those conversion camps, and it's about what happens there. That's about all I know about it. I did watch Emma from Drinking by Myself quite a while ago talk about this book and how amazing it was, and it sounded fantastic, so I downloaded it, but then didn't get around to reading it for ages. Then Robbie said that he was interested in reading it, so Robbie and I will be buddy reading that one in March as well. The last book that I will be buddy reading during March is Surrender the Sun, and I can't remember who wrote that, but there will be a picture of it somewhere here as well, so you can see who the author is. This is another book that I'll be reading on my e-reader, and I will be reading this with Cece from Cece's Reading Journey, and we will also be having a chat over on her channel about what we both thought of the book. I'm not sure when that will go up, but keep an eye out for that one over on Cece's channel. I really know nothing about this one. It is post-apocalyptic, and that's pretty much all I know, but it does sound quite interesting, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. So that means that I have 6 buddy reads, so you can see why I didn't necessarily want to do 12 rolls and then potentially have to add the buddy reads on top. Like I said though, 2 of the buddy reads probably will go over into April, but anyway, so I think what I might do now is actually do my roll of reads and tell you what I choose for those, and then I will tell you about the other 2 readathons, because depending on what I get for the roll of reads, they could potentially fit into the readathons. So let's set that up. Alright, so we start out shuffling. As you guys know, I'm not an amazing shuffler, so I have pre-shuffled these. And let's place the cards. And we have our spares. First up, we have to roll to see how many rolls we're going to do. And as I just told you, I am going to use a 4-sided dice this time. So here we have our 4-sided dice. It's a triangle. Let's roll and see what we get. 3. All right. So we've got to do 3 rolls. All right. So as you saw on my 4-sided dice, I got 3. So I have to do 3 rolls. Let's go ahead and do the first one. Alright, so 3 dice of the rolls of the 20-sided dice. First one is an 18. A hyped book. And the first roll that we got was to read a hyped book. So for this one, I have decided to read the second Frostheart book by Jamie Lidler. I read the first one for Readathon, which was, I think, in October last year, and I loved it, and I'm really excited to read the second one. Don't really know a huge amount about the second one. It is called Escape from Aurora, so I assume that has something to do with some kind of being trapped and having to escape. Aurora was or is the capital city in this land, so I'm guessing that things don't go according to plan there. So we follow Ash. Ash is a child who we looked after and raised by a Yeti guardian. When he's about, I think, 11-ish, him and his Yeti guardian wind up joining the crew of a sleigh called Frostheart, and yeah, it's just really fun, lots of adventure stories, and really, really well written, so I'm excited to read that one. And now we have roll number 2. Same rules apply. If I roll a 1, I have to roll more than 1 again, if that makes sense. We'll count that. It's a 5. Australian Aboriginal author. Got that a few times recently. Okay, so for roll number 2, we got Australian Aboriginal author. And for this one, I have decided to read The Interrogation of Ashala Wolf by Amberlynn Quamelina. I don't know a huge amount about this one either. It is an urban fantasy style book, although it is set in outback Australia. Yeah, it's about a young woman called Ashala Wolf. So it sounds really interesting. It sounds really great. It sounds like the kind of thing that I would really enjoy. I know that Kat from Stars and Embers has read this book. She's in fact the only person I've seen talk about this book on Booktube before. I do know that she really enjoyed that one, so I'm excited to read this one. And my final roll, unless of course we get a 1, and we did not. It's 14, which is this one here. New York Times bestseller. Okay, we've gotten 2 of those before, but that's okay. We can live with that. And for final roll, we got New York Times bestseller. So this means any book that has been on the New York Times bestseller list at any point. And for this one, I have decided to read Part 2 of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. So as I said at the beginning of this video, I have just started the first part, and I'm definitely going to get it finished by the end of February, but it's still quite chunky, so I don't know that I'll get on to part 2, but it seemed like the perfect opportunity to therefore go ahead and read part 2. Now I will talk you through the 2 readathons that I intend to go in March. The first one is a month-long readathon. It is War Games Readathon. This is a readathon that has been created by Aaron over at Booked But Busy. Sorry. There is a cat just here getting very excited because all of my cards are on the floor and my dice, and she's in attack mode. So she just bumped the tripod. Anyway, so Aaron over at Booked But Busy created this amazing sounding readathon. It's called War Games. There are 3 hosts, including Aaron, and the other hosts are Allana at The Awkward Book Nerd and Nicole at Nicole and Her Books. So the idea behind this readathon is that you have 3 paths, and you can choose which path you want to follow in order to get to the end of the readathon. With those 3 paths, you have 3 different options of characters that you can then follow and do the prompts for whichever of those characters. So there is a light path, which is what Allana will be hosting. There is a grey path, which is what Nicole is hosting, and there is a dark path, which is what Aaron is hosting, I should say. So I thought this sounded really, really fun because it sounds kind of D&D-ish, which is a game that I quite enjoy playing. So I had a look at all of their videos and all of the different options, and I've decided to go in down the grey path, just because I quite like playing chaotic or not morally grey characters. I quite like the concept of morally grey, or at least lawfully grey characters. So the 3 options that you can do on the grey path, which is what Nicole will be hosting, are a thief, a rebel, or the lost heir. So naturally, since I have played a thief quite a few times as a D&D character, and I'm currently, one of my current characters is a thief, I will be playing a thief. You can double up, triple up, whatever it is that you want to do. The prompts for this one are: read a book that features an orphan, read a standalone, read a new-to-you author, read a middle grade or young adult book, read a book with a dark cover. So like I said, for more information about what this readathon is all about, how they all measure up to their cards and everything, I will link all 3 of the hosts' channels in the description below, so you can go and check those out. They all sound really fun, but this one sounded like the most fun for me. I will be reading 2 books to correspond to all of those prompts. So the first book is A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. This is the second book in the An Ember in the Ashes series. I won't go into any detail about what the book is about, partly because I'm not 100% sure, but also because it's the second book in a series. So this one covers, sorry, all the info is down here. So a book that features an orphaned character. One of the main characters, Laia, is an orphaned character, so that fits that prompt, and it is also a young adult book, so it fits that prompt as well. And then one of my buddy reads actually fits in as well, because The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor is a new to me author, a dark cover, and a standalone. And then I have Becca's Bookopolothon that she is doing a mini weekend readathon for on the 21st and 22nd of March. So the way that works is that she will be giving us roles as the readathon goes on, and you then do books that correspond to those roles, and you don't find out until the readathon is happening. It's every 12 hours, I believe. She will do a role and you then find a book that matches that. So she's already released the first 2 roles. She's got 2 Bookopolothon boards that she's using. So one is this year's her own, and the other is last year's full month Bookopoly board. That was for the readathon that happened in September last year. I'm not 100% sure. I think that maybe once you choose whichever board, you have to continue to choose that board, but I could be completely wrong. Anyway, she's done two roles, and you can choose whichever prompt you want to choose. The way that she's made it work is that you can pick up a new book or you can continue with the book as long as you will finish the book in that 12 hours, because then when the next role happens you need to find a new book. I have decided to go with the role that ended up where I could read a fantasy, because I have got multiple books in this TBR that are a fantasy book. So it will depend on where in the month I am, as it's not until the 21st. Got a few options. So I could be reading or want to start reading A Torch Against the Night. I could be wanting to finish Way of Kings. I could be wanting to start or finish this one, or this one, or this one, although I doubt this one. So I have quite a few options, so I'll just kind of see where I am when I get to it. I'm considering vlogging that weekend as well, so stay tuned for that. That is my incredibly random and all over the place TBR for the month of March. Thank you for sticking around for as long as you have. Sorry that it was kind of all over the place, but I hope that you enjoyed it nonetheless. Yeah. So comment below if you have any thoughts on any of the books that I'm planning on reading this month. Comment below if you would like to let me know what you'll be reading in March, etc, etc. All of my social media details are in the description below, and like I said before, all of the YouTubers that I talk about are in the description below as well, so you should go and check any of those things out that you wish to. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I do really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next time.